Okay, we're good. Come on in if you're out. Mark Lavi is going to talk from Nutanix. We are just reliving some old times here. And this is a follow-up to the session that we just had. And he's going to sort of take it the next step. As I was saying earlier this morning, and as I was saying yesterday, all of these technologies that we discuss at Cloud Expo need to be managed. They come under the general rubric of DevOps, but once you get in there, there's so much going on. Continuous deployment, operations, governance are three of those things, and that's what Mark's going to talk about. And as a DevOps solutions architect, he lives this life. I don't know, I'm going to guess he's from the ops side, but I may be wrong. And a lot of people object to that term now, though. No, there's no sides anymore. We're all on the same team. And I've actually met some younger people over the last few months that go to DevOps schools. There was one, I think it was with Sky, the British company Sky. And they're massive users of cloud computing technology, and they send their young people to schools, and they graduate as DevOps, and it would never occur to them that there were two sides to this coin. It's just one big, lovely world. So please welcome Mark Lavi. He's going to talk all about it, and I might even learn something. Mark.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Everybody can hear me fine? Good. Everybody can see this fine? Great. So it's an honor to be back in New York. I grew up here. I was one of the founding webmasters at CNN when we were at 5 Penn Plaza around the corner. I was also, even before that, one of the first webmasters at News Corporation, and this is back in the mid-90s. I departed New York to go on to become one of the webmasters at Netscape, an evangelist for JavaScript and LDAP. I've worked at a bunch of startups and start downs, and long story short, that's brought me all the way to working as a DevOps manager, as an engineering manager, as an operations manager, as a web developer ever since the beginning of the commercial internet in the mid-90s. And so that's how I've come to be in front of you now. Nutanix acquired the company that I worked for, which created a DevOps automation platform. And we're going to show you how we start to weave together a giant ecosystem of on-demand enterprise cloud computing, storage, virtualization, and applications and their operation for the full life cycle of how to run your business. But I will drop some knowledge on you first. We'll do a little DevOps evangelism, and then I will show you how Nutanix really helps perfect the delivery of the DevOps culture of what we need to do to accelerate business and break down those silos between the developers, the operators, and whatever it is, because we're all here to help run the business as efficiently as possible. So let's get started. First, a love letter from the lawyers. I will be talking about some forward-looking statements. Therefore, if you are interested in any of our products, and I will try not to make this just a blatant product pitch, but if you have any questions about what we're shipping now or what we're about to ship next, because I will be talking about how we weave everything that I'm going to show you today together, almost in a pre-configured package. We'll be showing that at our user conference at the end of the month in London. That'll be .next London. So I'm going to show you a lot of the ingredients that we will mix together and productize even further for you to give single-click outcomes. But let's talk about what does it take to adopt DevOps and become DevOps. Well, I'll update this with this year's findings, but currently, what we find for the people that have adopted a DevOps culture and practice inside their organization is that they are able to deliver more value, more releases, more software, repair uptime and production and staging and development across all of their environments quickly. And not only that, because they don't spend so much time keeping the lights on and keeping the plumbing working, they're able to automate even further. So this is an accelerating trend. The people that adopt DevOps accelerate even further into DevOps, while the people who are trying to achieve keeping the lights on at their business, being strangled by the complexity to keep things on, are not automating more. So with that trend, the next step is, well, all right, whoops, let's go the other way. We see that consistently our customers are saying, how do I get this agility? How do I drive more automation through everything? And quite frankly, how do I scale across not just how I do things on-prem, but off-prem? How do I use the public cloud and the private cloud? How do I go hybrid? And we call this an enterprise cloud. How do I have a consistent enterprise cloud operations control plane, governance plane, and application plane, so that I can work with ESX, with AHV, with GCP, with Amazon, with Azure equally. And I can have all of them fight to help run my business. And I want to control all of this from one single pane, and I want to be able to drive my operations across all of these infrastructure providers to keep my business up and running with the application SLAs across all of them. So it takes a lot of effort to achieve this, but this is the dream of all of our customers. The dream, I think, of probably everybody in this room, and I will show you how we have started to achieve this. So, first off, you might have seen Chris adopt the Devops definition. I will define it for you, but in talking to some of the founders of the DevOps movement, they purposefully, for the first years, kept it abstract because they wanted you to define what DevOps is for you in your organization and how you practice it. But I'll give you a definition. If you find it valuable, please bootstrap off of it and leverage it. And I will show you how I have leveraged it to explain how we can adopt DevOps and accelerate our business. And it doesn't matter what size customer you are. I've worked with the smallest ones across all of the nations, across all the world, to the largest ones just down Wall Street here. In fact, that's where I'll be going tomorrow. So we'll talk about this now. How do we adopt all this? So first, let's start with the Devops definition. And all right, let's try this way. So DevOps isn't something that you can achieve. It's not a static thing. It's a process, just like security. We never finish achieving security. We constantly are working to improve the craftsmanship, improve the state of the art that we practice. So DevOps is the practice of removing friction between the developer and the customer. This is a value chain. And when I spoke to Toyota, I got to thank them because they helped create DevOps in a very, very abstract way by creating the Toyota production system. The goal there is to deliver value to the customer with the most efficient way possible, and anybody can stop the line if it compromises quality of delivering that value to the customer. So after I talked to Toyota about thanking them for creating that, they helped basically underpin how we deliver software manufacturing pipelines today. Now, if we're reducing friction between what it takes to get the developer to get the hot fix to the customer, instead of waiting 1 month or 2 months, but we're talking about delivering a hot fix to the customer this hour, well then we are competing as a business more efficiently than all the other folks who cannot fix a problem in production this hour. And if you can't deploy something this hour to satisfy your customers, you need more DevOps. You need to reduce the friction in being able to deliver value for your business. So this very much is a business definition too. We're here to deliver value to our customers. And DevOps is just how do we remove the friction to deliver it better, more efficiently. So if you use that first lens for what DevOps is, this is how we will achieve agility for the business. Remember, the two things we're looking for is agility and scalability. The second lens that I'll give you, with which I want you to look at the world, is pets versus cattle. And to summarize what this is, we're trying to remove any single point of failure in delivering our value. We don't need a single server, a single data center, a single public cloud vendor to be our source of a single point of failure. We need to use fleet management. We need cattle. We don't, if one of them falls over, if Amazon falls over, well, I should be in GCP and Azure as well. It's fine that Amazon falls over because quite frankly they do. Not often. But let's go back just earlier this year. There was a slowdown in US East 1 on EBS, which is the storage, and it affected 40% of the internet because 40% of the internet treated Amazon like a pet and had a single point of failure, even though Amazon is inherently redundant. But if you don't design and leverage a cattle-like mentality, yes, you will design single points of failure into your infrastructure, into your application, into your architecture, into your operations, and into your culture. We're here to remove all that friction. So when we finally have no single point of failure, we have the scalability to go anywhere and use this as a mandate and a lens with which to look at everything. It doesn't matter whether it's technology that is the single point of failure. It doesn't matter if it's people who are the single point of failure. What matters is that we are a team and a fleet working to drive the business as quickly as possible. And now, you should be able to see pets all over the place. Right now, I'm a pet. Unless, if I fall over right now, who's going to take up the place for me? Hopefully Chris will, and then we will have cattled the ability to deliver this value to you. And I'm doing DevOps for you right now. So this is something that never ends, right? It's a process. It's a process of continuous integration, delivery, deployment of our practices. And we take this even further for how do we deliver software and make pipelines. And we repeat over and over this reduction of friction inside the organization culturally, increasing the automation to get that agility and scalability, because this is not something that happens overnight. And then ultimately we have to drive feedback into all of these things to see whether or not we actually delivered improved value or not. Quite frankly, I have customers who say, Mark, I finally could deliver that new patch, that hotfix right now. I did it in less than an hour. I did it, right? Well, I'll ask them, yes, you shipped a shiny new feature, but did you slow down the website? Did you slow down the API load balancer? Did you actually ship negative performance value as well as a new feature? And which is better for your customer? How can you compare the value of the health of what you've delivered? So you will see that I will provide these slides if you're interested. These are referenceable all the way back to the Toyota manufacturing system and so on. So if we're trying to accomplish agility and scalability for the business, I'm going to lay these out in 2 axes. And now, instantly, you start to see that in that Gartner Magic Quadrant, up and to the right is better system. We can go from hand-built single servers in a single data center on a single hypervisor on a single server in the lower left-hand corner. I call that stage 0. But our goal is to be able to deploy fleets of servers across multiple infrastructures and multiple data centers with multiple applications continuously. And that's the upper right-hand corner, that's stage 3. Most of my customers identify themselves between stage 0 and 0.5. Some of the advanced DevOps folks are pretty much at stage 2. All of them are trying to get to stage 3. Most of them who are at stage 0 and 1 don't even know that they're trapped in that lower quadrant because their vendors don't give them APIs, don't integrate deeply into other things. They only sell more complexity, more specialization, more shiny, and they create more friction actually for running the business. We need to drive value, and we need to achieve this. And so most people think then, great, Mark, if I start doing this just with the DevOps team, I'm going to unlock the potential of the business. No, we see the DevOps team becoming the bottleneck for how to deliver all this value for the entire organization. And so the next stage of this is really making sure that this is a parallel journey across all the different silos to achieve that agility and scalability across their architecture, across their applications, across their operations, and ultimately across their culture. So this is a multi-pronged journey, and if you're lucky to have a team that's tightly integrated, well, these parallel journeys collapse. But how do we achieve the ultimate efficient businesses that we see on the planet right now? We look at Amazon and Facebook and Google. Well, they're very much down here at this lower right-hand quadrant. They have a culture of data-driven experiments, constantly delivering value and checking the value of it. So going back to what I said earlier, you will see all the ingredients for this journey are now complete here. And this is how we achieve web-scale efficient businesses that are ready to respond on a moment's instant notice for delivering better value to their customers. I hope this is what you achieve. Speak to me and I will help you on this journey, because it takes a long time and a lot of effort to do this. That's my job. So, I talked to Patrick. Let's see if you folks know who Patrick Dubois is. He is this gentleman right here. Anybody know who he is? This is Patrick Dubois. This is the gentleman that, with Andrew Clay Schaefer in 2009, created the term DevOps. I met him about 2 years ago. I've talked to him a few times. And Patrick, in 2009, when he coined this term DevOps and created the first DevOps Days, by the way, has anybody been to a DevOps Days? Good. Anybody who hasn't, go to devopsdays.org and find the local chapter here in New York. It will change your career. So I met with Patrick at Devops Days Austin, where I'm based, and went back to 2009 and said, you know what, when you created a Google group to get kicked off for DevOps Days, ultimately in that first year, you called that Google group Agile Infrastructure, because Patrick was trying to deploy applications and move data centers, and it was just so hard to work with IT to get things done. There was a lot of friction for him to deliver value. See the recurring theme here? So I told Patrick about 2 years ago, Nutanix has very much achieved Agile infrastructure. And the goal for what helped create DevOps is very much being satisfied Nutanix. So I will segue a little bit more into the product pitch now. The journey that we see to adopt DevOps, and really, quite frankly, to modernize businesses, has been a journey of modernizing their data center, driving applications efficiently onto that modern data center, but then hybridizing across public clouds, because a lot of people go to the public cloud and then find 24/7 workloads running in the public cloud is 2 times, 3 times, 10 times more expensive than depreciating it as a CapEx on their data center. So we have people coming back from the public cloud. And I think that's also a mistake, just as much as it was a mistake just to run out there because it's the new shiny thing. On-demand infrastructure is what everybody wants. We have this with Nutanix. So the next step is, how do we hybridize between on-prem and off, CapEx and OpEx, and all these different consumption and governance models? How do we converge everything inside and outside the organization, as well as all the edge of where our customers are, together into a single control plane, operational plane, a single business plane? And so, yes, this is the product stack that Nutanix delivers. There's a lot of words there. I'll explain it super quick. We're just a software company that does clustering. The bottom layer here is that the fact that we can run with multiple different hardware partners. It's up to you. We can even run not only on commodity Intel platforms, but also Power platforms with IBM, our partnership. We're just a software company that helps you run your business efficiently. The next step up is Acropolis, which is our scale-out software-defined storage plane, virtualization plane, and networking plane. Flow is how we do microsegmentation between all the VM workloads that are on there, because now on the next layer up, you can see you have choice of hypervisor. Choice of hardware, choice of hypervisor. We even include a Linux KVM hardened hypervisor in the platform. Our contention right now is that hypervisors are a commodity. We've built it into the platform. So you'll see increasingly, if you leverage the entire Nutanix stack from top to bottom on the left-hand side versus the choice of all the other ways to run your workloads with the different vendors and the different hypervisors, you will get better efficiencies because I can drive this all through a consistent control plane, which I will show you next. But we do have a consistent control plane for ESX and Hyper-V. Its folks will still drive into those experiences to do more advanced operations. So Prism is the next layer up. This is our HTML5 control plane. It lets you upgrade clusters on the fly because Acropolis means everything that we do is highly available. It is built as a cloud-native application itself. It is how we do scale-out storage. It's how we do web-scale efficient business operations. So this means that any node of a Nutanix cluster can go down because it's designed for distributed failure. And this means that we can update the cluster on Monday at lunch. That's a normal thing with no downtime because we have redundancy on our storage. Redundancy, we move the VMs over to the right place on the hypervisors, and we have no downtime. This is a cloud-like experience that you can bring on-prem. When we move up past that, now Prism has to actually reach off-prem. We have to go to the public clouds. And Nutanix is also offering its own public cloud experience starting early next year. But we do not care if you use that, or Amazon, or Azure. We're going to help you go to Azure and also go to Amazon, and bring you back from Amazon to go back on-prem when it's the right cost model, the right governance model as such. And we have gone even further to add more PaaS-like experiences on this platform. It's not just running the infrastructure, the storage, and the networking and the virtualization. We've got that solved. But the next step is how do we run databases really easily? How do we make VDI or desktops as a service really easy? And that's what these differentiated products are on top of them. Some of them are purely SaaS products, and you don't need to have Nutanix at all on-prem in order to leverage them. So, this is a developer's platform, and what you'll see today is we're working very much to weave together all of these things to make a single-click experience for how do I drive a database onto this platform. And so we have a robust API, and I'll show you that this is embedded in all the products, so if we can't get you there with a few clicks, you can get yourself there with a few clicks or integrations. And this extends to our entire partner ecosystem. This is a cloud-native, API-driven economy of functionality of how to drive your business and wire your business. The end result is really application self-service. This is the value that we need to deliver back to our business. And we make it as easy as to consume as what we have on our phones. When we go to our phones and we go home at night, we think that installing an application is one click. It's one click to update it whenever I want, and magically it backs up to the cloud. This is what we have for home IT. But this is not what we have for enterprise applications. Nutanix is here to change that. Here's your enterprise app store. At the end of the day, all of our customers are really asking for one thing. It's getting all of this on demand. And the way we show this to them is, well, most people think that I just need to make a request and we can drive it to that marketplace that I showed you, but I'll show you how we can do even better than that. Our goal is really to help blueprint your applications, how to deploy the application, how to maintain the application, how to scale it up, how to scale it down, how to capture all those change controls and runbooks in order to give that as a one-click experience back to your end users. But, as I told you, this platform is completely API-driven and also has CLIs, and so we have customers plugging Nutanix into their CI/CD pipelines. They have their monitoring and metrics system saying it's time to scale up the web tier. It's time to shard the database. It's time to do these things at 4 a.m. so that we don't have to wake people up. Remember, people are pets. We need to cattle our operations as much as possible and have the business heuristically drive these experiences. So drive that experience any way you want. Put ServiceNow in front of us. It does not matter. We can close those ServiceNow tickets, we can close those Jenkins tickets, and we can close everything else that you need to do. We will play well with all the others because we were driven to be integrated. This is how we ultimately get to a lights-out, heuristically driven business for continuous operations, not just continuous integration, delivery, and deployment. And this is what Nutanix is healing. And when I explained this to Patrick, he started to say, that's really great. So let's start to see this in action now. Enough lecturing, enough knowledge. And I will probably refer back to this stack a few times. Let's just bring that up. And let's close that down. All right. The dream of a lot of folks is to be able to deliver value, to deliver a continuous integration and a continuous delivery pipeline. And so here's a bunch of open source projects that can actually create something like that. And wouldn't it be nice? Most people are working to achieve this, and they usually work very hard to carve all these things out, and these are pets. It's very hard to scale Jenkins unless you're good at it. Very hard to scale out the artifact repository or even your Git repository unless you outsource these things, and a lot of people do. Well, what if I could bring all of this and make these things cattle? What if I can make every CI/CD pipeline ephemeral? What if I could show you, let me log in and show you this is Prism, our control plane. I'm going to log in, and this is where we have all the automation. This is where we have all the single clicks and few click experiences of leveraging all the PaaS operations that we have built into this platform. The first thing I want to show you is that we can manage multiple clusters. In this case, let's see how many we have hooked up. We only have 2 clusters hooked up, but already we're seeing a single pane of glass to manage fleets of resources. And looks like both of these are AHV, but we can have multiple Hyper-V, multiple ESX clusters. This is how we finally cattle all of our data centers into one single pane of glass. Because of that, we can help do planning and analysis on your clusters to give you application runways. We can help you plan what it takes to add more users on, more applications onto your system. Here's the automation place. This is Calm. And I think you heard Chris mention it a few times last time. You can think of Calm as really the way we blueprint our applications and our operations for the life cycle of the business. And let's bring it up. It is a live demo, and I'm sharing the same Wi-Fi as all of you. So here we go. What we should be seeing is that this is a pretty efficient HTML5 experience. I should be able to do this over a VPN on my phone, and sometimes I do. So here's the marketplace. Here are all the end user applications, and we put all of this under RBAC, of course. The goal is to give the business one-click continuous operations and delivery of applications. But let me go show you the blueprints, and let me specifically show you how I can stand up a CI/CD pipeline. And not only that, the other problem is that all of our developers love to have their specialized laptops to do their builds. Their laptops and their build environments are pets. What if I could cattle all the developer workstations to be consistent? They can still customize them as much as they want, but if anything goes away or if they lose their laptop, I'm going to let them VDI in or SSH in or remote desktop into a cattled developer workstation. So I can have a consistent experience, and that we don't have people spending 4 or 5 days being onboarded in the organization. I'll give you your credentials, let's get you started. Why don't you develop today? Why don't you start delivering value? In fact, why don't we push your first fix? And maybe it's just hello world out to our customers today, and that's how we achieve this agility and scalability. So here, we're going to stand up a Jenkins master. This one is going to be a single one, although we can scale it. Here, you can see we're going to stand up a Jenkins, let me make this a little bigger, a Jenkins slave. You can see Calm is very GUI, drag and drop, all this wonderful stuff. And we're going to initially set this population, this cattle population, to be between 2 and 5. We can scale them in and out, and this is how we can control our costs if we need to. The next thing is let's take a look at all the other services that we have here. Here's the Docker registry. Here's our Git server. Here's our developer workstation, and here's our artifact repository. So I can stand this up in 20 minutes, and now I can stand this up for every project, for every team. This is how I start to tie together all of the pieces so that it's not a pet anymore in order to drive continuous integration and DevOps inside an organization. Next step is, I can also add Kubernetes into this. Doesn't just have to be VMs, so let's shrink this back down. We can also mix VMs and containers together. And all I need to do is start driving the containers into these things. So I don't really care if you're using modern architectures or older legacy architectures. We can mix and match these things together so each team can start moving these things forward. Mixing containers and VMs, that shouldn't be hard. In fact, orchestrating across all these things and making sure that the dependencies between these things should be as simple as wiring up these dependencies like that. Let's go another step further. This is wonderful, right? This is how we're going to deploy the application and orchestrate the application with the right order of operations. How about I give permutations of deployment? I'm going to clone this application profile, and I'm going to start to rehost all of these things to have a different VM experience or a different cloud experience. Let's just take our Git server, and let's host it someplace else. Let's put it on Amazon. It's that simple to start going hybrid. All I need to do now is localize this for what does it take to bring up the same operating system in Amazon. Pick the regions and so on. I don't want to be just in Amazon. Let's clone this. Let's also be, where else can I go? Well, I can try other Amazon regions, of course. Let's do that. That shouldn't be hard. And then I should be able to go elsewhere. I think that's all I have enabled, but I have drivers to other platforms. So we handle all those public clouds. We also handle those hypervisors, and now we offer containers across all of these things. So you're starting to get the idea. You can now redesign everything to be ephemeral, have no pets anymore. Let's take the next step further. In all of these things, I also have the ability to scale them up and scale them down. Add configuration management, add operational things, and make these one click and delegate these operations back to the end users as well. So this is how simple you should be able to democratize the business and all of the brilliance inside your organization and give it to the business on demand. Great. That's COM. Now, COM can exercise all of those APIs if we don't have a visual driver. Let me show you some of the other things that we're also making simple. But you understand that COM can now accelerate and weave all of your experiences, all of your business processes, and all of your business applications together under one roof. And we can help you go anywhere you want, simultaneously, in a hybrid fashion. And this is the enterprise cloud. So let's go take a look at what else we have inside of Prism Central, our control plane. One of the things is, let's go over here. I've already stood up Carbon, which is our lightweight opinionated distribution of Kubernetes. The goal is to make on-demand Kubernetes a very simple thing. Now, we have a COM blueprint for that, but that's how you can change every piece. For most people, they're still just getting their feet wet with Kubernetes, and you want your developers to be able to break Kubernetes, to learn Kubernetes, instead of having that one pet in production that nobody can mess with, right? We need to make mistakes over and over again. So with a few clicks, I should be able to create another Kubernetes cluster. Chris said one click. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's one click after we set up all these basic parameters for setting up Kubernetes. But as we step through most of the environment, and we give you sane defaults for a lot of these things, and we understand the Nutanix clusters that drive these things, so we can set up a lot of these things, it's only a few clicks to get an on-demand Kubernetes cluster now that you can kick over and play with. And by the way, yes, COM can now schedule workloads on this. All right, you have the idea. So that's on-demand Kubernetes. We call that Carbon with a K. Likewise, Beam is a way that we can now not only manage on-prem with Prism Central, we can manage all the resources, and I showed you capacity runways and planning and such. Beam is the analog for how we do this in the public cloud. And we will work over time to integrate COM, Beam, Prism Central all together to be a continuous control plane ultimately. But this is a SaaS product. You just need a credit card and sign up for a 14-day trial right now, and you don't need to have Nutanix in order to get a cloud management plane that will not only take a look at how well are we spending in multiple clouds. Here you can see that we can drive to Amazon as well as Azure. We'll have GCP early next year, as well as we have an idea of how much it takes to drive workloads onto Nutanix. This is the beginning of giving you not pets of cloud spend analysis, but cattle of all of your resource management, which is how we want to run our businesses. That's our global view. And we'll see exactly how much I'm doing in Amazon, how much I'm doing in Azure, and how much I'm doing on-prem, and start to get an idea of the total aggregate spend of my resources and how efficiently I'm starting to track against on these things. This is a single pane of glass dashboard for how to manage your resources. And that's what we need to do to make our business run more efficiently. We go even further. It's not just about how we do the governance, because at Amazon, we can figure out how to right-size your workloads, and we give you one-click steps to remediate those things. You have a lot of spend and waste, we can actually show you all that in Beam, and then you can remediate it in Beam. But likewise, we also need to do the compliance and security aspects of things. Looks like in one of my Amazon regions, I've got some issues here. Are these critical or not? That's up to you. You can help define these reports. We come pre-canned with about 250, so HIPAA requirements and so on. We will help cover your Amazon workloads and so on, and make sure that you don't have those target breaches that happen, right? That S3 bucket that's unprotected, unless you determine that it's meant to be public. We will warn, we will report, and if you want, we can also one-click remediate. So that is Beam. Let's move a little bit further on. Let's extend. Now, if you recall, I was showing you let's see if I can get there. Not getting there. All right, let's try this way. You can see that, I'm going to just show you this really clicking on the stack one more time. You can see that now we're able to drive workloads across those different hypervisors, across those different hardware vendors in a consistent way with Prism. And now you've also seen that with COM, we can start to drive Prism outcomes and application deployments out to all these other public clouds. Well, the next step is how do we start to bring more and more PaaS-like or platform as a service experiences in this platform? You just saw me show you Carbon, on-demand Kubernetes. We're doing the same thing for on-demand desktops, and we're doing the same thing for on-demand on-demand clouds for their governance, as well as now we're starting to add application monitoring so that we can close the event lifecycle. When something falls over in the middle of the night, we should be able to close the loop on the monitoring on your application performance and trigger COM actions. And that is Epoch. So this is basically network application monitoring, and it gives you an application-centric way to start to cure your business for how to run your business and find, from a network perspective, how your applications are flowing and performing. Likewise, we also have driven Carbon into this experience, and Era is where I'm going to show you next. Our other platform as a service things, files, buckets, volumes, these are just additional interfaces, storage interfaces into Acropolis storage. So how do you get an NFS mount? How do you get object storage? How do you get block storage onto Acropolis storage, onto your Nutanix cluster? But let's go take a look at Era really quickly, because this is database as a service. And now, if you run your database on Nutanix, or even you run a read replica of your production database on Nutanix, because it's on Acropolis storage, we can do shadow copies of production databases that are zero copy data to go over, and now we can make database DBAs really happy because I can instantiate a development and test database of multiple terabytes in seconds. And this is what Era is. Really, it takes the advantage of we understand the storage of your business, and now we can make shadow copies and clones of your database, and we can help you produce new instances of it. So here, I have 3 different sources, and I've gone on to, let me even show you again, RESTful APIs for all of these things. If you're not familiar with Swagger, you're going to see our Swagger interface in just a sec. I apologize, let's try this one. Here's the more RESTful API Explorer for Nutanix control plane. Let's go back to Era. Era is working towards general availability early next year. Let's go back to the overview. So I have 3 different sources. I have 26 clones, and here's the space savings because I can make 0 copy clones, and I can, because Nutanix can do the block tracking on everything that we do for every development and test instance of that database, all we need to do is store the delta for the most part. Now, certain operations do require us to fully instantiate the database, and yes, that efficiency will drop down. But you understand now that because we underpin your data and we understand your data, we can now drive better business outcomes for your DBAs, because half of the time they spend time waiting around, developers wait around for them to get another production clone of the database so that they can stress test something on a production workload, production-sized database. So, if you are interested in any of this, if you're interested in me showing you how the CI/CD pipeline can be ephemeral, how you can run your business with incredible efficiencies, if you want to understand Nutanix now in a different level, well, come out to our booth right afterwards. I'll answer all your questions. We're booth 200 right out the doors. And I will just conclude with this. All of this has been in the name of establishing agile infrastructure and driving a control plane and a business way, an efficient way to run your business on-prem. But as you can see, we've had to work to make a hybrid enterprise cloud experience off-prem and drive a consistent control plane across all these things. So, the APIs are important because now you can weave any experience and map your business processes into these things. You can work with our entire ecosystem, and now we even have pre-stored value for applications on demand. We ship with a whole bunch of blueprints free. So, standing all these things up, making all your databases and business fix and run and get scaled out at 4 in the morning without waking up any of the pets is possible. And we're here to help you modernize your business. So I'll thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll see you afterwards. I appreciate it. Thank you, Roger.